how you doing? I'm Tom. I work for RazorResearch, and I wanted to talk to you quickly about the idea of training as a researcher. Obviously, I've only been around about 6 months. I've only been working for Razor for 6 months, so I wanted to try and bring kind of like, I don't know, think about some ideas that that have come up while I'm training, and one of them was sort of gender in research, and I found it really interesting that this industry is so heavily sort of populated by females compared to males. Quite unusual in a lot of industries. So I thought maybe we could think about that as and how that might impact on a training researcher. I first started to sort of think about this again when I was at university, and I studied anthropology, and I came across this kind of idea of reflexive anthropology that kind of looks into the subjective nature of the researcher, how that role might impact results or ethnographies, but rather than design it out and push it away, you kind of embrace it and use it to benefit the ethnography and make it a lot more richer. Sort of fascinating stuff. So I wanted to see if we could kind of look into the way that we're training as researchers, or the way I'm training, my colleagues are training, and I don't know, use it, see if we can examine gender bias within a project or other projects or whatever. Anyway, so what I did was ask 6 of my very kind peers from my AQR Foundation course, who all had been training for less than a year, so all sort of at a similar stage to me, so just learning, getting to grips with market research. I asked them 6 questions on a fantastic blog system called Live Minds, really cool program, and I sort of asked them what they thought, in general, as they were training, if they'd come into, what kind of problems they'd come into when they were training, and then sort of brought in the idea of gender and see if it'd come across, see if they'd come across anything that was sort of overtly gender related. So when they came back, loads of information came back. It was brilliant. They were really cool. I didn't have to bribe them or anything. And they sort of 4 major key themes came out. First being the idea that sometimes they when they first started, that they would be more associated with I don't know, typically male or female orientated topics. So the idea, one of my respondents, male respondents, quote, sums this up: I would be more likely to, sorry, it's a female, I would be more likely to be asked to moderate a group about cake decoration than cars, as I would seem to have more in common and therefore build a better rapport with respondents. So that's something to think about. Another one of my respondents talks about this idea that he was able to build a better rapport with people of opposite sex. So someone that sort of female respondents, when he was a male, he could strike up a better rapport. I mean, a lot of people talk about straightforward flirting, that the opposite sexes kind of tend to flirt and get a bit of a kind of better relationship that way. Other people just think that when you have a same sex, sometimes it just, the respondents get a bit defensive. I personally have had, while I've been training so far, I've had, I've encountered situations where middle-aged women I get on very well with and I can build a great rapport with. Whereas conversely, as I'd expected to get on better with people my age, men my age, I've actually struggled to sort of build rapport as easily. It's taken a lot longer throughout the group. Another really interesting point was this idea that there's sort of assumed knowledge by respondents. One of my male respondents talks about it here. If the moderator genuinely doesn't know anything about the topic, then they might miss out on some of the basic important facts. So it's the idea that if the respondents assume that because he's male, he knows about a certain particular male topic, and he doesn't, then a huge part of the courses, or a huge part of the topic is missed out, and it can be really detrimental to the project, potentially. Anyway, the last point I want to talk about was the idea that the sort of moderator can perhaps use their sort of gender to benefit a project or a group or a methodology. And this is interesting. Again, this is sort of, as we're training, it's sort of something that we may have encountered or we're starting to sort of come across perhaps. And this is what I find the most interesting. It's summed up here by one of my respondents, a female. I'm sure that when I moderate all male groups, they act differently towards me and perhaps use different language and adjust their behaviour. But then again, so do I. So what I find really interesting is this idea that respondents may react differently to the gender of a researcher. As we're training, do we start to realise this? As the journey progresses, is this something that we take into contact, or is it just something that we're encountering because we're young and we're sort of naive, if you like, as researchers? Anyway, I thought it'd be really interesting to perhaps take one or two male researchers on each side, sort of, again, trainees like me and my colleagues and my peers, and conduct a similar project but with a sample, similar sample, and get the male and the female to conduct parallel projects and see if the results that they got was any different, and if they were, then we could learn from that, and we could perhaps build that into sort of our training or use it for future projects. Either way, anyway, I kind of like the idea of us as trainee researchers embracing the reflexive market researcher, kind of embracing that inner subjectivity. Anyway, enough of that. I hope you have a great day. It's really nice to, I hope you enjoyed that. Take care, bye.